Campus to Canton. Campus to Canton on the Better Sports Network.
I asked the Twitter audience, I said, who was the best quarterback in the Big Ten? I gave three options: Drew Aller, J.J. McCarthy, or Kyle McCord. Now, for our uninitiated audience, Drew Aller is going to be the new quarterback at Penn State. Kyle McCord is in line to start at Ohio State. Chris Moxley, Felix, Sharpe, this is the Campus to Canton show on Better Sports Network. Mox, the results were interesting. I think appropriately so. Drew Aller was in the lead, slightly ahead of J.J. McCarthy. I think if I had to draft the three of these guys, I might even go J.J. McCarthy last. The thing about college football is people are so ready to lean on what they already understand and what they've already seen. J.J. McCarthy he's beaten Ohio State. He's played in playoff games. We kind of know what he is. If you're a casual fan, you know what he is. If you're really into this, you know what Drew Aller is. I think Drew Aller is so different of a player. He is easily my number one quarterback in the Big Ten. I probably would take Kyle McCord. I might take Kyle McCord ahead of J.J. McCarthy also. But Drew Aller is 6'5", 230 pounds, is not afraid to make any throw on the field. His comp by 24/7 Sports is Josh Allen, and I think that comp is appropriate. He can move in that big body, and again, he can probably throw the ball through a barn. He's accurate. He is unafraid. I'm taking Drew Aller here easily. He's my third-ranked quarterback at Campus to Canton without having had a start yet. This in his second season, Chris.
Listen, I like Drew Aller. He's even bigger than you mentioned. Like, he moves really well. Listed at 243. It's a big boy, 6'5", 243.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, the way he moves is Josh Allen-esque. I mean, he's a really good player. He's all potential. He actually came on technique-wise pretty late in high school. He hired a quarterback coach, and if you look it up, there's actually really interesting documented progress of his his mechanics and his throwing motion.
Yes.
And using his lower body and stuff, which is you don't get to see that a lot. So he's still pretty raw to me. I just think he is by far the most potential. I voted Kyle McCord because I think you're going to know what you're going to get with Kyle McCord. I don't necessarily think that that's going to be true in 2024, but I do think it's going to be true this year. I think Drew Aller's got a little bit of adjusting to do. 60 career passes, a 58% completion percentage.
For a true freshman last season, but some of the throws that he put on tape, Mox, throwing to a covered tight end 30 yards down the field on a corner route against Purdue, where the tight end has a linebacker underneath him and a safety over the top of him, and he gets it in there in between, layers the ball in between him. I came on this show not realizing that you had taken Kyle McCord in that poll. Where do you have Kyle McCord ranked? You must have Kyle McCord ranked ahead of Drew Aller then.
In what format? Campus to Canton leagues?
In Campus to Canton format.
No, I have Drew Aller ranked ahead because I think he's more NFL potential.
Okay.
If you're giving me who's better this year, I'm going to say Kyle McCord. I think he's currently the best quarterback in the Big Ten. I think statistically that will be true. It's not J.J. McCarthy. I'll tell you that much.
It's not.
Not interested in investing in him. But yeah, we saw Drew Aller, his first two games, he had that great throw against Purdue, and then he came in against Ohio, who, yes, a G5 school, but he lit them up. Went 6 for 8, 85, 88, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he's a really good player, really good athlete. Like, there's not a lot to dislike except he's green. That's basically it.
He's going to become a household name. I went on Moose and Keith at the beginning of this past season And I kept saying Anthony Richardson, Anthony Richardson, Anthony Richardson. Now the odds of Anthony Richardson becoming the number 1 pick in the draft have increased substantially. I mean, you could have got him at like plus 7,000 a month or so ago. Now it's at like plus 350. They're talking about the Colts trading into the Bears spot and selecting Anthony Richardson. I don't think that that's going to happen, but it seems like the media is pointing in the direction that he's going to be a first-round pick. I'm telling you, Drew Aller is going to be a top 15 pick, and he is the best quarterback in the Big Ten, Mox. And it's why I want to pay very close attention to some of these Penn State Nittany Lion futures, and including Heisman odds for Drew Aller. I'll give you that much. I want to pay attention to those.
Okay? Yeah, I mean, last time I looked, he's like plus 2,000. I don't think that's a bad bet. And it's not a bad bet if you believe that could be true. Taking Big Ten. I mean, yes, Penn State has to beat Michigan would be the bottom line. They'd have to beat Ohio State, obviously, but they'd have to beat Michigan in the championship game. Beat Ohio State, Michigan. I believe Ohio State's on the schedule this year. That's a tough task. So I'm always skeptical until I actually see it, but they did improve enough on the defensive line and offensive line this year where you can think with the returning production they have, they could be really good and do some damage. They're probably a top 7 team in the country. So I don't want to discount. I don't want to discount Drew Aller at Penn State.
That's exactly what you're doing. That's fine. And they've got the best running back in the country. They probably have the best young backfield in the country.
Yep.
So, all right. We're going to get into non-football player comps for some 2023 draft eligible guys. I think that's going to be fun. But Chris Moxley, FanDuel has released their odds for some of these huge games this season. We're already getting into odds. We've got numbers. I want to go through these, Mox. September 2nd, South Carolina at North Carolina. North Carolina favored by 1.5. I love that we get to have this conversation already in February, looking towards September. Because I get to see how these lines are going to move. South Carolina, Spencer Rattler versus Drake May. Drake May's got you right up there with Caleb Williams as far as being a potential number 1 overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft. I don't think that's out of the question. Spencer Rattler, we considered him to be a first-round pick. He could probably reclaim some of that status with a good season this year. We saw flashes of him last year. But we get Shane Beamer's Gamecocks versus the ascending North Carolina program. I'm glad. I like looking at this line early. I think North Carolina is probably going to cover this line. What do you feel about it?
Yeah, so for the majority of these, I don't think it's necessarily wise to lay points right now, or I really bet the line in general, but I do think that's the right side. South Carolina lost a lot of production. 45% of their offensive line snaps are gone, and that was a veteran unit that was returning all 5 starters, so they had consistency. 42% of total tackles. That includes guys like Zach Pickens, Jordan Birch, Darius Rush, who blew up at the Senior Bowl. Like, very veteran unit that is being depleted. Offensively, I think they're going to have work to do too. Spencer Rattler returns, but their number 1 running back, Marshawn Lloyd, is gone. Josh Vann is gone. Austin Stogner is gone. The other tight end, Jaheim Bell, is gone. I mean, South Carolina lost a lot to the portal this year. They just did. And I don't really feel comfortable betting on what we saw at the last 3 or 4 games of the season. That's Carolina, and not the first 8 games. Well, I say Carolina, South Carolina, and that's like the first 8 games, which was just horrendous offensive production. So yeah, I certainly lean North Carolina, and they're only 11th in returning, or they're 11th in returning production. They lost Josh Downs and Antoine Green, but they bring basically the entire group back, especially Drake May, who is quarterback.
They also lose their offense. They also lose their offensive coordinator. Chris Moxley dropped his microphone. Might as well just point it out.
Just collapse. Just collapse.
They also lose their offensive coordinator, Phil Longo, who's now in Wisconsin.
Yep.
Who's now in Wisconsin. They add – it's funny. I said leading up to the offseason that, hey, if North Carolina is going to continue to add Drake May, they're going to need to add some wide receiver talent because they don't have a lot of established guys after Josh Downs leaves. Josh Downs, who I think is going to be a first-round draft pick or early second-round draft pick. They had Devontae Walker from Kent State, 6'3", 210-pound sprinter who can get downfield. I think that Christian Watson is probably a good comp for Devontae Walker. And they add the wide receiver from Georgia Tech, who's Nate
McCollum.
Nate McCollum, who I think is going to play in the slot there for North Carolina. And so you add those two with Andre Green Jr., who was a 4-star recruit last season, a guy who played in a rural area in either Virginia or North Carolina, like playing in cornfields, but he has length and contested catchability. That's a really solid wide receiver core. I mean, it's a really solid wide receiver core between those three.
Yeah, and I mean, they also bring back Gavin Blackwell and Kobe Paysour, both contributors last year. Like they're losing two key guys, but the guys they brought in are really, really talented. How many times have we talked about Devontae Walker on this show? Transferring from Kent State, freakish athlete, had over 100 yards against Georgia. Took anybody that takes a screen, like a true screen to the house against the Georgia Bulldogs defense, is probably a special athlete. And he did that last year at a G5 program. So Devontae Walker is a special dude.
People were looking at scoreboards at halftime in that Georgia-Kent State game like, oh, this is a game. And it was the third quarter. It was still a game. And Devontae Walker is a part of the reason for that. As a matter of fact, I was in a mock draft, a 2024 projected rookie mock draft, dynasty rookie mock draft, and I took Devontae Walker in the second round. So I think that, we're very high on, especially playing with Drake May. Special player. Mox, I mean, I'm not letting you off the hook. You have to pick.
Oh, if I had to pick, I would play with North Carolina. I think that I just think that's the right side to be on. I also don't, as a South Carolina alum fan, tortured soul, don't really like picking in games where South Carolina is playing because I always pick against them. Because I just think the worst about the program all the time. So, but I do think North Carolina is the right side just based on all the numbers that I have in front of me.
Why did you say that you wouldn't recommend jumping in this early, at this time?
Yeah, when a line is under 3 and you are still 6 to 7 months out, so much variance can happen. If we're talking about a line that's like 12.5, 13.5, that's a little different because there's not as many things that can change between now and then. Like there's a chance that, God forbid, right? But Drake May goes down in spring and you're just screwed. And this line does not price in that as a potential point of variance. It just if this was what's the game, September 2nd, and it's in Bank of America, so it's not actually at UNC Chapel Hill. Whatever, it's not going to matter. The game it doesn't matter. I maybe would be more interested if it was a week or two before the game, but this far out, there's way too much risk, and the price of the line does not reflect that.
Chris Moxley, I am smashing North Carolina, and so I'm not taking any of your advice.
Go for it. It's available -110.
-110. Colorado, Coach Prime in their first game of the season. They are at TCU. You've seen the spreads. This is September 2nd. TCU is favored by 17.5. Chris Moxley. Coach Prime, he's got a tough initial contest with TCU having been in the championship game, but TCU loses Max Duggan. They lose Kendry Miller. They lose Quentin Johnston. They're losing some stuff here. I mean, Colorado's an ascending program. 17.5, that's a lot of points.
TCU is 116th in returning production. All the players you name, plus their other two leading receivers, Tay Barber, Darius Davis, and then Hodges Tomlinson on the defense, and two other guys. Hodges Tomlinson's the nephew of LaDainian Tomlinson, I think is that relationship. But he's related to him. Yeah, it's a big number, and I know how bad Colorado was last year, and so I don't want to be like, hey, late with Colorado. But I mean, would you be shocked if they got up to play as TCU basically hemorrhaged losses in the portal and Prime came in and said, hey, let's go to Fort Worth and just keep this game competitive? They covered last year. If they didn't cover, they got dang close because they outplayed him in the first half. And Chandler Morris had to be sat. And that's when Max Duggan came in and then became a Heisman finalist in the first game of the season. Colorado had their number last year. And Colorado's team last year was a way worse team than they're going to field this year, like substantially worse.
Colorado, they add Coach Prime, which, brings some flash and attention to the program, but we think that we talked about Devontae Walker earlier. Well, Devontae Walker's head coach Sean Lewis is now the offensive coordinator at Colorado. Fast, up-tempo, spread system, get the ball out, score a lot of points. It has been that way for a very long time. I don't know if they have the bullets just yet to compete with Power 5 teams, but I mean, Coach Prime is not just, bringing the lights and cameras. Sean Lewis is a very good hire.
Oh, yeah, I love the Sean Lewis hire. Like you said, he has that veer and shoot offense, which is basically just like a different version of like up-tempo air raid stuff. And I think it's a good – I don't think it's a bad fit for what they have, right? They have Travis Hunter, who is a stud. He could be a first-round wide receiver or a first-round corner if he wanted to do that. Like he could play either and do it at an incredibly high level. Like one of the more special two-way athletes that I think we've seen in a very long time. Makes sense that, Prime is his coach. But, I mean, they brought in Xavier Weaver today, who is a transfer from South Florida, who I think is a good player as well. They brought in Seydou Traore, who was a really productive group of 5 tight end at Arkansas State. I think this offense could do some damage. And Shedeur Sanders is not anything to, I think he's good. I don't know how good he is. I think people are maybe getting carried away with, his potential. But he is certainly an upgrade over who they had last year's in Brendan Lewis and JT Shrout. Just like abysmal quarterback. Colorado is legitimately a bottom 5 program in the country before Prime came. And like that's a Power 5 program with Power 5 resources.
Over under 1.5 chains on Coach Prime's neck week 1 against TCU.
Over, I think 2.5 is probably a more appropriate line. He's rocking a buff chain. And then if he's like an everyday chain,
and
he
the
likes.
21. And the 21.
And 21. So, and if he's got like a day-to-day chain that he likes as well, I mean, we're talking maybe the line should be 3.5. You could get plus odds of 3.5. Like, what about 3.5 plus 120?
I'm taking the.
That's my line.
3.5. I'm taking the under on 3.
But over on 2.5, right? I'm taking the.
No, I think I'm taking the under on 2.5 too.
Yeah, I think you're getting 21. I think you're getting the buff chain.
I don't think he's coming out there with 3 chains on. He's going to have the sunglasses, the hat, the wide brim hat, 2 chains, a Colorado Buffalo chain, a black sweater, and a number 21 chain, all iced out. That's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be.
Certainly over 1.5, though.
Yes, over 1.5. I'm going to try to find out in person, Mox, because I'm pretty sure that I am going to be buying tickets to the first home game for Colorado. Nebraska at Colorado, September 9th. Nebraska favored by 6.5. I mean, this is another program that is on is an ascending program. They've got Matt Rule there, new quarterback in Jeff Sims. I mean, Nebraska is not a super established program that Colorado should be afraid of. That place is going to be rocking. I guarantee you College Game Day will be there. That's why I want to go. I got to get my tickets tomorrow. Those tickets are expensive, by the way. They're about almost as expensive as Beyonce tickets to get in this place.
Really?
So not really, but almost. It's almost it would be it's the most expensive college ticket that I've ever bought. This first game, it is going to be rocking. It is going to be rocking, especially if they find a way to beat TCU.
Oh, for sure. In that case,
that place is going to be rocking. College Game Day is going to be there. Nebraska favored by 6.5. It's going to be a hostile Boulder, Colorado stadium. And you all mocked and ridiculed me when I said that Coach Prime is going to be in a whole economy to Boulder, Colorado, and he is, especially this first game. I think I'm taking Colorado in this one. I'm taking 6.5 points. So,
I wish it was a touchdown because I just think Nebraska has a better roster overall, and I have no idea how these pieces are going to mesh at Colorado. If you want me to pick a side,
do it.
I would probably play Nebraska, but I don't feel good about that. I would not. I just wouldn't play it. Period. But that is my side. Nebraska returns a good amount of production.
There's not going to be a team all season that has a better home field advantage than Colorado on September 9th. There might be teams that have an equal home field advantage, but that team is going to be juiced. That crowd is going to be juiced.
I'm a little skeptical of that. I'm trying to think of the nicest way to say that. That program has been horrendous for the last decade-ish.
Okay.
Like I find it hard to believe that people are just going to show up, and I don't think Boulder, Colorado, is necessarily a football town. Like
Jackson, Mississippi.
Jackson, Mississippi is way more of a football town than Boulder, Colorado. It's Boulder, Colorado. These dudes are going like skiing on the weekend. They're not going to Colorado Buffalo's football game. There's also, we talk about the economy, and I think that's absurd. First of all, the economy is going to be revitalized by by Deion Sanders. They're like one of the 20th wealthiest zip codes in the country.
We looked up the median home price.
Oh yeah, the bowling alleys are going to be bumping right after people get home from their like champagne ski chalets.
This is true. Yes, the median home price in Boulder, Colorado is over $1 million. But I'm telling you that place is going to be rocking. It's going to be a destination. Like people like me are going to be flying out to Colorado just to see this game, to see his first game at Colorado.
It will be bumping. I find it hard to believe that like
this is what I'm going to do.
The whiteout at Penn State.
I'm going to get a camera and I'm going to get a better sports microphone and I'm going to go talk to the people in Boulder, Colorado on that Saturday in September 9th. Chris Moxley's is taking Nebraska. All right. Enough with the appetizers, Mox. September 9th, also on September 9th, this is a rematch. Texas at Alabama. We get Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning, A.D. Mitchell. I don't even know who's the running back going to be. Probably freshman Cedric Baxter. Texas at Alabama. Yeah. Alabama favored by 9.5. I don't like that 9.5 at all because Alabama is retooling in a major way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually would take Texas here. I have way more confidence in this pick than I did like Nebraska. I think I said this all last year and it never came to fruition, but I consistently had Texas graded as a top 10 team, even when they were losing. I just felt like they do so many things well. Like when you look at their analytical profile, it's so strong, but the results weren't there last season. I think that they might be there this season. And so if you're going to be over 9 points, like I wish it was 10, of course, but I think I would take Texas here. Alabama returns key defensive players. Their big loss is Brian Branch and Will Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
But they also return Dallas Turner. They also return Khalid McKinstry. They return really, really solid, probably first-round picks again in this draft. The offense is going to take a step back without Bryce Young. I think that's obvious. But I do like the skill pieces there. Like I think I may be higher on them. I just think Texas can keep this close. I just like what Texas has done. The offensive line and defensive line in their last two classes have been so good. And they had 2 potential freshman All-Americans on the offensive line last year. And they're only going to get better this year. I really like this Texas team. Like I have them as a top 8 team in the country.
Between Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs, Alabama maybe lost 85% of their offense. And the 2 guys that were predicting to replace Bryce Young, either Ty Simpson or Jalen Milroe, neither one of them are the passer that Bryce Young was, that Tua Tagovailoa was, that Mac Jones was. And they had a new offensive coordinator in Tommy Rees. you talk about we don't know how it's going to mesh at Colorado. I mean, yes, it's Alabama, but they have a lot of new and moving parts with Alabama, and we don't know exactly how that team is going to mesh either, at least offensively. We do not know.
We don't. And, I mean, they're bringing in, a JUCO wide receiver that I think is going to be pretty dynamic in Malik Benson. And I think he might emerge as their wide receiver one, but this is a dude who hasn't been in the system, and Ja'Cory Brooks has, Jermaine Burton has. Like, how up to speed can you get these new guys in that's their week 2, I believe. I think their first game is September 2nd. So I'm taking Texas 9.5. Like, if I had to pick, and I think that's just the right.
They almost won last year, and they returned a lot of key pieces. They almost won last year.
Bryce Young won that game for them. He drove down and they kicked the field goal at the end to win it. But Bryce Young was the only reason that they won that game, and that was with the backup quarterback for Texas.
That was with a backup quarterback, and that was with Quint Ewers going down early. Quint Ewers was getting ready to have the best game that he had in his young career. It's funny because after that game,
so cool.
He was so terrible after when he came back from injury from that game. But I do want to plug Chuck Martin, head coach at Miami of Ohio, was the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame the year that Tommy Rees graduated and Notre Dame went to the national championship game. I got his comments on why he thought Tommy Rees would be successful. That's on the Campus2Canton podcast feed. I would encourage y'all to go check that out. There are just so many good games, Mox. I'm glad that we're not even through September. Washington -8 at what's going to be an overmatched Michigan State team. It is on the road. It is on the road, September 16th, but the weather should be fine in East Lansing. The weather should be absolutely fine. Washington returns everybody. Michael Penix Jr., Millen, and Polk, and they're all their wide receivers. I'm forgetting the names off the top of my head. Wayne Talapapa.
Roma Dunze. They add that freshman that we like.
Tayshawn Lyons out of Long Beach, California area, who's a speedster. I mean, Michael Penix Jr., talk about Heisman futures. I would put Michael Penix Jr. up there. I would take the odds on him. Yep. I would also like the odds of Washington being in the national championship game if they can get through USC and Utah. Michael Penix Jr. was one of the 5 best quarterbacks in college football last year. He's going into his 5th year. I mean, there's no reason to think that he's not going to continue to keep it rolling. There's no way, Mox. There's no way at all that Michigan State, they have no offensive firepower. They're not going to be able to keep up with this Washington Huskies team. I don't care if it's on the road or not. They're not going to be able to keep up with them.
No, they got crushed last year too. This is one of those like rivalry games as well, or rematches from last year. This is one that I might play. I might take Washington up to 10. I just think this is a really big mismatch for Michigan. Like, you're right. They don't have the offensive background. They lost their best player in Jaden Reed, who's just going to go to the NFL. It's a tough matchup for a Washington offense that returns basically everybody. And the defense wasn't good last year, and they still limited Michigan State. So,
I should mention that Michael Penix Jr. has had success in East Lansing before during his time at Indiana.
Yep.
I want to say that was 2020 or 2019. That dude had been in college a long time. I don't know if it's 2019 or 2020. It might have been the 2020 season where he went.
It was the COVID season when Indiana was actually good.
They ended up losing that game, but Michael Penix Jr. played excellent in that game. All right, we got to get to break here. But before we do, from March Madness to the World Series, Better Sports Network presents the 2023 Sports Futures Draft, featuring picks and odds for the most exciting sporting events of the year. Join Corey Parson, Nando Delfino, and the Better Sports team of producers to find out where the best values are in sports futures, plus betting advice and strategy. Don't miss the Sports Futures Draft, now playing at bettersports.com and on demand with the Better Sports app. Mox, when we come back, we're going to go through a few more games, but we're going to get into non-football comps for some of these guys who are eligible, who are draft eligible, declared for the NFL draft. That's going to be fun. We like to do a lot of shenanigans. It's the off season. We like to engage in shenanigans. We'll do that when we come back. It's Felix Sharpe, Chris Moxley. This is Campus2Canton on Better Sports Network.
Monday Night Rants with Edward Rouse on Better Sports Network.
Do you believe in the Madden curse? Do you think that's a real thing?
I did. Now, I don't think it's as big of a deal anymore, but it was a real thing for a solid 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it was Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson, Peyton Hillis.
LT was never on the cover. I know that.
Was he not? I thought he was one. Okay, well, you do know all the covers of everything.
Yeah, okay. So if you want, I could do this real quick. So Garrison Hurst is the first official Madden cover athlete, 1999. 2000, I believe they still put John Madden on the cover. And then 2001 is where it all started. So 2001, you have Eddie George. 2002, Dante Culpepper. 2003, Marshall Falk. 04, Michael Vick. 05, Ray Lewis, first defensive player on the cover.
Okay.
06, Donovan McNabb. 07, Sean Alexander.
Okay.
08, Vince Young. 09, Brett Favre.
Okay.
10 is a trick one because it's
no way you know.
And Larry Fitzgerald. 11, Drew Brees. 12, Peyton Hillis. 13, Calvin Johnson, I believe so.
You're right.
14.
No way you know all this.
14, also a trick question. I believe that's the Madden 25 cover, and it's Barry Sanders. Unless you got it for the new consoles, in which case Adrian Peterson
Oh my God.
was on the cover.
You're not cheating. You're not looking at.
Swear on my life. Swear on my life.
Okay. Keep on going.
15, you have Richard Sherman.
Okay.
16, hold on. 16 is Odell Beckham.
Okay.
16. 17, now this is the one I get mixed up because 17 and 18 are back-to-back Patriots.
They are.
17, I think, is Gronk, and 18 is Brady.
You are correct.
19 is Antonio Brown.
Correct.
20, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my goodness.
21, Lamar Jackson. 22, Brady Mahomes. 23, John Madden. But yeah, dude, I'm a cover nerd when it comes to this stuff.
We now know, but that was really impressive. I don't know how.
Thank you.
That's literally 29 of them or something like that. Wow, that is. You did not miss a single one, and you even got the special editions where they had 2 people on the covers.
Monday Night Rants on Better Sports Network. Campus to Canton.
Mox, who would you put on the cover of the NCAA 24 video game? Putting you on the spot.
Marvin Harrison Jr. or Caleb Williams.
I was going to say Caleb Williams. If I was going to go, this is an easy decision. It's one of those two or Drake May. I don't know that.
I think it's one of those two though. Bigger brand.
They're
excellent at their position. Number 1 by far. Maybe combo cover to promote USC's move to the Big Ten.
There we go. I don't think that has set in just yet for everybody that USC and UCLA are essentially Big Ten teams.
Pac-12 after dark in Piscataway, New Jersey. Is what we're going to see.
That's right. USC at Ohio State interconference game in 2024.
Yeah.
Is there I don't think that there's a defensive player whose profile is elevated enough to be considered for the cover of the video game.
Nobody probably next year currently, but Will Anderson 2 years ago would have been a good pick.
Yeah. Oh, Will Anderson. He didn't get the Heisman, but he would have gotten the cover of the video game.
Yeah.
Maybe the linebacker from LSU whose name is escaping me.
Harold Perkins.
Harold Perkins. Harold Perkins.
He might be a year away. He might be on the cover in 2025 because he'll be a true sophomore.
He'll be a sophomore. He'll be a true sophomore this year. So his junior year, he's on the cover. Mox, we want you to be a part of our talk shows on the Better Sports Network. You already are, Mox. We want our audience to be. Check out the program schedule on the Better Sports Network app and at bettersports.com. Our regular lineup, 7 a.m. Eastern, the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show, 10 a.m. Eastern, Moose and Keith. 12, Lunch Money with Kyle M. Ray, presented by Fantasy Guru. At 3 p.m., we got a replay of Moose and Keith. 5 p.m., The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. 7 p.m., the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show with Eric Boltman. At 9 p.m., Dynasty Nerds with Garrett Price, plus Better Sports Live with Lisa Ann and Rick Kamala, Tour Junkies, and Monday Night Rants with Edward Ross, and of course us, Campus to Canton, Friday night, or if you're listening to us on demand. Let's get a few other games here, Mox. We got all off season, so we can go through more games as we get closer to the season and as these lines change. This Florida State team is an ascending team. They are underdogs at Clemson on September 23rd. Clemson is favored by 3. This is another one where I'm like, we like Florida State in the national championship conversation. Clemson, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, first year as a full-time starter. I might put my money on Florida State in this one.
3 is too many points. So yeah, I would back Florida State as long as it's over a field goal or at a field goal. I think Florida State can win the ACC this year. I just really, really like who they brought back. Brought back Jordan Travis. Brought back Jared Verse, which was a surprise in my opinion. I thought he was going to be a first round.
It was a
NFL draft pick. They brought back a couple guys in their secondary who probably would have been early day 3 picks. So this team's going to be really good. I liked Florida State more when Clemson didn't make a competent offensive coordinator hire in Garrett Riley, which I think is an excellent one for them. But at a field goal, I think I'll lead Florida State.
Jared Verse, a transfer from Albany, I want to say, to Florida State, edge rusher, who I was hoping my Detroit Lions would be able to get with their second first-round draft pick. But he goes back to school. I think he had like 9.5 sacks or so, but just an absolute force on that defensive line, and decides to go back to
2 years in a row that Florida State has brought in a transfer who was either from G5 or not getting playing time and would have been first-round draft picks. The previous one being Jermaine Johnson, who couldn't hack it on the Georgia defensive line. Just like that's how good that Bulldog team is. But yeah, Florida State knows their defensive end transfers.
They do. Mike Norvell and Jordan Travis, they've got that team on the rise. I mean, people don't remember. If you're young, you don't remember Chris Winkie and Peter Warwick and Warwick Dunn. And I mean, Florida State at one point, that Florida-Miami game to start the season was like a huge, huge deal, a huge rivalry game. That team hadn't been, I guess they had the little stint with Jameis Winston and Jimbo Fisher there, but there was a time in the early 2000s, late 90s or so, where Florida State was, on the same playing field as like Alabama or Ohio State is now. So, all right. Anyway. All right, Mox, let's get into these player comps, okay? So here are the rules of the game. Mox, we have not told each other our answers. We are going to give non-football player comps for a couple of guys who have declared for the NFL draft. We're going to start with one Anthony Richardson, okay? So, Mox, give me your non-football player comp for the best athlete in this, the best quarterback, the best athlete, the best quarterback. I'm just going to call him the best quarterback because I've been loving me some Anthony Richardson. Give me your non-football comp for Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, so some of mine are different sport athletes and some of mine are not. My comp for Anthony Richardson is a bull that is running in Pamplona for the running of the Bulls. You can't stop this dude. He's coming at you. Your only option is to freaking run out of his way because he will run you over with his side speed combination. Incredible athlete, the best athlete in the class. Don't necessarily think he's the best quarterback. Best athlete in the class, bar none. My other one is the Warrior Achilles. So like unstoppable, but has an Achilles heel. I think both of those make sense for Anthony Richardson. If his Achilles heel is,
what's his Achilles heel?
I don't necessarily love how he operates in the pocket. I think he's pretty poor at it.
You're a hater. You're a hater.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. That. Yeah,
You're a hater.
Tell me stuff I don't know.
So we did this two different ways. I thought we were picking athletes from a different sport to comp them to, and you kind of went anywhere, which is you're just more creative than I was. My comp for Anthony Richardson is Vince Carter.
Ooh, I like that one.
Vince Carter, who was always like a super dynamic player, but could never actually carry a team, but had like these highlight reel dunks, highlight reel plays. He could produce a highlight tape. So Vince Carter is my comp for Anthony Richardson. And I've got a basketball comp for CJ Stroud too. You want me to give you my CJ Stroud comp?
I have a basketball one too, but I want you to go first.
I wonder if we picked the same player. My basketball comp for CJ Stroud is Tim Duncan.
That was not
the big fundamental. I hated watching Tim Duncan play because he was so like vanilla and boring. And for the most part, that's what CJ Stroud's game is. You need to like love the game to appreciate that this guy is a pocket passer who's going to put the ball on you. He's not like, what we've seen with some of these with Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, even with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's game had a lot of flash. He would scramble and throw off platform. CJ Stroud is just a little more vanilla, but he is great at it. I think that this is a perfect comp for CJ Stroud. I'm going Tim Duncan, the big fundamental.
So I was going to stick with my basketball comp, but I think both my comps are a little harsh to CJ Stroud. Actually, the football comp is in my opinion Jared Goff, which is harsh. So I'm just extending it to two different ones. I had Klay Thompson he's like the third best player on the team at third best player on the team at any time, but he's fundamentally carried by superstars, and that was CJ Stroud with his receivers last year, his receivers this year. Still a really excellent player, don't get me wrong. Just a guy that probably isn't elevating everyone else, and he's probably being the one elevated to an extent. You want to hear my other one? It's a little controversial.
You are hating on all of these players. You've hated on Anthony Richardson.
Oh no, my next ones are all good ones.
Okay.
All
right, go.
You want to hear my other CJ? This is a Is this a no politics show tonight?
No politics.
No politics?
No, but still give us your comment.
Nope. Okay. Pete Buttigieg. So
what?
He's got excellent skills, but he was carried by a more moderate and successful iteration, but still found success. So this is a mayor from South Bend. I think his raw political skills are really good, but he was still carried by the Biden-Kamala ticket and ended himself in a really good role, which is the transportation secretary. That's a really good role. You're just, you're not at the top. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably the president, and then Emeka Egbuka is Kamala Harris or something like that. So really good player, carried by those around him with innate talent.
I did not know that you were. You know what? You were way more creative with your comps than I was with mine. Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, who's under a lot of fire right now.
Well, CJ Stroud is too. People said today that he was going fourth quarterback off the board. I just think we're lining even closer to my comp now.
I got to tell Austin and Matt about that one. I'm going to text them as soon as I get a break here. My comp for Bryce Young was snowboarder Shaun White. Shaun White, one of the dynamic X Games athlete, and I think that Bryce Young's game has a little bit of backyard kid playground to it. I think the comp for Bryce Young has been Russell Wilson-ish, but he's way more like sudden and bursty than and he's also thin and small, like an X Games athlete. Like he could be on a BMX bike. So my comp for Bryce Young is I'm giving him Shaun White. What do you think about that?
I like that. I went the basketball direction here. I've seen the Steph Curry comp for him. I don't think that's the best one. I think Chris Paul is the best one. Like Bryce Young is an elite facilitator. Obviously, Steph Curry is very good at that. But the strength of Steph Curry's game is really his ability to hit you from three, and that opens up a lot for him. I don't know that Bryce Young has the arm talent in the same way that Steph Curry has that three-point range, but I know Chris Paul could get you there. I know Chris Paul is going to be a very solid facilitator of the football or the basketball. I know Bryce Young is going to be a very solid facilitator of the football and will get his players open and where they need to go. Will never wow with arm strength. I think he's a really good athlete, but he's still small. So I'm going Chris Paul.
This is a bad comp, but I was going to comp Bryce Young to Manny Ramirez. Manny Ramirez had the saying, Manny being Manny, just a great player, but kind of did things his own way. I think Bryce Young doesn't even call plays in the huddle. He's just like, hey, you just run over there. You just run over there. I'm going to make a play. Like that's Bryce Young's game. So I wanted to say Manny Ramirez. That was kind of my other one. All right, let's go to Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson, who's going to be the first running back taken off the board. We've known this since 2020. Dynamic five-star from Arizona, went to Texas and kind of lit it up ever since they started giving him the ball, including the last game of his freshman year against Colorado, a bowl game. He averaged, I think it's 18 yards a carry in a college bowl game. Bijan Robinson, give me your non-football player comp for Bijan.
Leonardo da Vinci. The man is truly
yours are better
man.
than mine. Yours are better than mine. I just can't even.
He's a Renaissance man, though. He's everything you want in a modern running back. And he's probably a little bit ahead of his time in terms of his size-speed combination. We rarely see it. The closest we've been is Saquon. I think just Bijan's receiving ability and his rushing ability to go between the tackles, break one off outside. I mean, he can beat you in any way. And that is a Renaissance running back.
You're better at this game. Just like last week when we played the game, What is College Football? You just demolished me. You're demolishing me here. You've got better comps. Leonardo da Vinci and Pete Buttigieg are not names that I thought that I was going to be hearing tonight.
No, we're way out there tonight.
Geez, my comps are – you know what? I'm going to go first. The next time. My comp for Bijan Robinson is Kevin Garnett. I think Kevin Garnett could do a little bit of everything early on in his career. There are some things that he was great at. I mean, he was a great defender. But, I mean, there were times when Kevin Garnett played point guard for the Minnesota Timberwolves and then ended up, being a 4 for the Celtics, a 4-5. But was just kind of really good at a lot of different things. And I think that that's what Bijan Robinson is. I don't know that he's necessarily – Bijan Robinson is not going to run a 4.340. You know what I mean? He's not the fastest guy that you see. He's not going to jump 40 inches in the vertical. But he's good at a lot of different things for a running back. He's probably not as athletic as Saquon. Doesn't have the thump ability of Jonathan Taylor. Probably doesn't have the speed of Jonathan Taylor either. But he's good at a lot of different things, and that's what Kevin Garnett was. So that's my comp for Bijan, Kevin Garnett. I can't even compete with you. Nobody's listening to my Kevin Garnett comps when you're using Leonardo da Vinci.
You can go first on our last one.
All right. Now, since you were so good at yours, I'm trying to come up with Michael Mayer is this player. Michael Mayer is the player, the tight end from Notre Dame. Michael Mayer was a 4. So Michael Mayer and Eric Gilbert were in the same class. I'm saying the name Eric Gilbert because Eric Gilbert is the highest rated tight end recruit in the
I think of all
rankings
time.
history of all time. So higher than Vernon Davis and Greg Olson. I think Greg Olson is number 2, but Michael Mayer was right there with him. Now Eric Gilbert is. I don't even remember where Eric Gilbert is. It Nebraska?
Nebraska. Yeah, he's in Nebraska.
He's in Nebraska. Yeah, he's at Nebraska now.
That's how much of an afterthought he is that we didn't bring him up, though.
That's right. We didn't even bring him up. But he was at LSU and then Georgia. Now he's at Nebraska. Michael Mayer has been consistent from day one. I want to call Michael Mayer like the third or fourth thing that you would vote for on your ballot, like an alderman, where you're like, what does an alderman do? I don't know, but I like this guy. I'm gonna go Alderman Michael. This is a terrible comp that I'm trying to come up with on the fly. But
what was the original comp?
None.
Oh, okay. So he's just that unique of a player?
It's just that unique of a player. I think that he could potentially be invisible most of the time, but make plays. I don't know that you're building a game plan around Michael Mayer, but you get to the red zone, you need a crucial third down catch, and he gets it for you. And he's going to be around he's going to play football for 10 plus years for some team.
You want to hear my comp?
You got it.
He is a great white shark.
Okay.
So I'll tell you why. He's strong. He's powerful. He has the highest kill rate, which means that he's always coming down with that pass when you need it. But he's also not the most athletic. He's not a tiger shark. He's not a thresher shark. He doesn't have the athleticism of a tiger shark. But he's the biggest. He's the baddest. He played at 265 this year and tore up basically every team he played.
He's huge.
You cannot stop him. Good luck stopping a great white shark. I think that's Michael Mayer. Even though he's not going to be the most athletic. He's not the most athletic shark in the ocean, but he is a straight player.
He is. He is. And if he ends up in like Kansas City or something like that to succeed Travis Kelce, then I'm gonna like eat my words about him being, vanilla and plain, because he would obviously put up a lot of numbers with Andy Reid calling plays and backing up Travis Kelce.
I'm thinking Cincinnati is where he should go, where he might go.
In Cincinnati, he has had success with some tight ends. I mean, I'm thinking specifically of Tyler Eifert.
When healthy.
And they drafted Notre Dame tight ends.
Yep.
And he's coming from Notre Dame. So, all right. We definitely stretched that one out. I felt really strong at the top before I finished week. I felt strong with the Vince Carter comp, but then I petered out at the end with the Alderman comp for Michael Mayer, Chris Moxley. So
yeah.
All right. Let's do. We got a few minutes left, Mox. We got a few minutes left. Let's get into some NFL draft props, which I think you found these from Bovada. Is that right?
Yeah, they're combine props. That's my bad. Putting them in the wrong spot on our show sheet.
Combine props, NFL combine props. I don't think that we've seen like FanDuel or DraftKings or any release combine props just yet. Yeah. So okay. So combine props. Now we know. So fastest 40-yard dash last year. Everybody and their mama was running a 4.2, 4.3, 40. The over, the I don't know what we call it. The line is 4.25. Is the fastest 40-yard dash going to be faster or slower than 4.29? Yes is minus 175, and no is minus 135. I don't even know how you pick this, Chris. I mean, we don't know what that track is going to be. If it's going to be the kind of the juiced track that they had last year, but I mean that's the number 4.29.
I don't like the juice, like minus 175, but I do think the number is going to be under that. Yeah. I think Devin Achane could hit it. I think Keaton Mitchell could hit it. I think Tyler Scott could hit it. Like there's a lot of players that could run a 4.27, 4.28.
I agree. And Tyler Scott is one of the first names that I thought. Tyler Scott was drafted this weekend. Did you catch that?
Wasn't he like a top 5 pick?
I don't know how he was taking the USFL draft.
Yes.
And nobody thinks that he's going to end up playing in the USFL, so they ended up wasting a pick.
They also drafted, I believe they also drafted Keaton Mitchell too. The same team.
They didn't.
I think they did. It was the Breakers, right?
Keaton Mitchell out of Eastern Carolina. It's funny because Eastern Carolina also had Chris Johnson.
It was really fast.
Keaton Mitchell almost as fast and as explosive as Chris Johnson. Not going to be a first round pick, and not going to be a bell cow, but has tons of speed. But I think I agree with you that the time is going to be faster than 4.29, and I think you get all the players that could get there.
By the way, the New Orleans Breakers drafted Tyler Scott, Noah Taylor, DJ Ivey, Keaton Mitchell, Isaiah Moore, Dante Stills, Jake Bobo. Like a lot of those guys are going in the NFL draft probably before round 5. So I'm not really sure what they were thinking here. What a weird draft.
I can make myself available. They should have had their draft after the NFL draft. That's what would have made sense.
They have an agreement with the NFL where, like, if you get cut from your NFL team, you can go play. So it's a like almost a feeder league currently, the way that it's set up. So it makes sense kind of that it's before the NFL draft. I don't know.
I would much rather just watch and track college spring football. I don't understand the spring football leagues. I don't want to hate on them. Listen, the XFL had some good finishes, and they have like wonky enough rules where I'm like, okay, I would pay attention to that, but I'm still going to prioritize college spring football over the XFL and the USFL. I mean, try again. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Okay. Is someone going to break John Ross's record? Now that's 4.22. Yes is plus 525. No is minus 950. I mean, they're almost just demanding that you take the yes. I don't know how fast Devin Achane and Tyler Scott or Keaton Mitchell is going to be to break John Ross's record.
I'm expecting those guys to weigh in heavier and probably not run as fast as they would otherwise. So I don't think John Ross had incentive to gain weight. Like Devin Achane, who plays at 185, Keaton Mitchell, who plays at 180, like those guys are going to add weight. I just don't see them running that. Like how ETN is probably like a 4.29, 4.33 guy and added like 15 pounds before the draft and ran like a 4.4 or like something way slower than he actually runs. Like that's, I think, the range of outcomes for those guys.
I mean, the candidates that would be in the running to do this are the guys who can get to like 22.5 miles per hour. And I think we've already identified, those guys, who they are. There was one year where if you broke John Ross's record, like wearing like Adidas cleats or something like that, you got $1 million.
Yeah.
And they need to continue to do that because I really want to see that. I
thought you were going to say I'm going to run. We saw your run at Canton last year.
This is true.
It's true.
Austin Nace, who's a co-host on this show when he's available, thought that he could beat me in a race. I mean, I'm a former athlete. Even though I'm 36 years old, I still try to stay in relatively good shape. He thought that he was going to beat me. We were in Canton for the expo.
D3 soccer player, Austin Nace. Don't want to say he's not an athlete.
He's still an athlete himself. But, I mean, I beat Austin by, 5 steps in a 40-yard race. So it was not particularly close. Your boy Matt Bruning thinks that he can beat me. So now I'm trying
the other host that is here usually when available.
And he thinks he can beat me too. So by the time we get to the expo this year, I'm going to lean up a bunch. And I'm going to run like a 4.6. All right, one more Mox. Let's do this quick. Rich Eisen.
Wait, time out. Do you really think you're running a 4.6? Because that's going to be our prop.
Well, I mean, I would take the over. I would probably take the over on my 4.6. Really quick, Mox. Rich Eisen, faster than 6.3, than 6.03.
I actually think he's going to be faster than this. This is a good prop to bet. 10 of his past 12 years have been at 6.03 or below, and 6.16, which he ran last year, would have been his highest time since 2010. So the technique is there. I think I'm betting this one.
All right, he's going to be slower. All right, we will catch you all next week where we get into more hijinks. This has been Felix Sharpe, Chris Moxley, Campus to Canton on Better Sports Network.